Unexpected Journey, Memoir of a Siberian Deportee by Juzė Avižienytė-Žukauskiene. Translated from Lithuanian and narrated by Giedrė Kumpikas, niece of the author, and by Isabelle Kumpikas, the sister of the author. Chapter 39, Crime and Punishment. The result of my outburst and stream of bitter words soon became evident. A few days later, another higher in rank storage agent arrived and took inventory of our wealth, clothing, of which there was hardly any besides what we had on our bodies, the remaining dishes we had not exchanged for food, 5 plates brought from Lithuania, an enameled bucket, 2 pots, bedding. When they went down into the cellar, they found 4 kilograms of flour and about 60 kilograms of potatoes, which we were saving for seed. They immediately seized the flour and the potatoes so that we wouldn't devour them. Someone informed my husband that we were being written up. He rushed out of the mill, as he was, overheated in his shirt sleeves, and started running home. In the mill, there was steam, and the temperature was around 30 to 32 degrees centigrade, while outside it was about minus 20 centigrade, and a cold and biting wind was blowing. Again, a bout of pneumonia. After about 3 days, we received a summons to court. It was in the name of my husband. Again I went, since my husband was lying in bed half dead, feverish, hallucinating. He couldn't even get himself any water. I had to lift his head with my hand and give him a drink. The wife of Colonel Jasinskis, a very dear and modest woman, promised to attend to my husband. The circuit court, a woman judge, and a young wench secretary were coming to Bolotovka, a free village, which was only 8 kilometers away from us. From Komarovka, there were 4 of us, Lithuanians, who were being summoned. Myself, Vanagas, the former midwife, Vyšniauskienė, and the Tatar Uzdin, some paupers from elsewhere. Court, what kind of court? A farce. The judgments had already been decided in advance. First, the old-timers were being judged. Everything was going fast. Make sure that you settle everything within 2 months, otherwise all of your possessions will be written up. The Tatar Uzdin, a real heap of rags, wearing a huge, dirty felt boots, fell on his knees, began to cry, and begged for mercy. An excellent Oriental act. Wait until the fall. The calf will grow. The cow will give milk in the summer. Whether the judges and the public, which was numerous, believed his acting, and whether they understood, was not the point. Submission was shown. Of course, he was cursed as a malicious tax shirker, had not given his butter payment in 3 years. He was given 3 months to settle his debt. Vanagas. Although the name Vanagas reminds us of a voracious bird of prey, there was nothing hawkish about him. Dressed properly, a pleasant face with a smile, his voice submissive, not even submissive, rather pleasant and twittering, he promised to pay as quickly as he could. The judge was not angry. Vyšniauskienė, why are you not paying the war tax? I have no money and no possessions. I only have a watch left. On her wrist was shining a gold watch with a gold band. Give it here. The frightened woman took off the watch and put it on the judge's table. Žukauskas. I presented myself. The judge did not even ask why my husband was not there. Why do you refuse to pay your taxes? Her voice was angry. We don't refuse. Only we don't have the means to pay. Where can we get meat from? Wool, hides. We have no animals. Deliberate tax evasion. You have a chata, a garden. You can pay. Only you have to try. I was about to say that no animals grow in the garden, but the judge interrupted me angrily. Enough talk. Settle right away, and if you don't settle within 10 days, all your possessions will be seized. The judgment is final, unalterable, without right to appeal. I understood that there was something wrong. Why was I being refused the right to appeal? When to all others, when the judgment was read, was added the phrase, those who are dissatisfied with the judgment have the right to appeal within 10 days at the regional court. I asked for a copy of the judgment. What copy? It is stated that the judgment is final, not appealable, sharply answered Kolesnikova, while I quite calmly answered, not quite so. The phrase is the same for all those judged today. You said to all that they have the right to appeal within 10 days at the regional court. Why am I an exception? I have no time to write copies, Kolesnikova fired back angrily. Give it to me. I'll copy it myself. You will only certify it, I said calmly. Just think of it, that I would permit everyone to rummage through court documents. Don't even think of it, yelled Kolesnikova, red in the face. Fine. You don't trust me with it, then I shall ask a local teacher. She will make a copy. You are obliged to give me a copy. I don't give in. I ran to the teacher's chata. Formerly, she had gotten from me my brooch, a necklace, some camisoles, a girdle, and other delicate things. She was always pleasant, gave us what she could, and now willingly agreed to go see the judge. The court was being held in the school. In a half hour, she brought me a copy. I don't know if it will help. Appeals to the regional court must be delivered to the same public judge, Kolesnikova. She is furious at you, stated the teacher. She might hold on to it for a long time and not send it. Don't give it into her hands. She might stick it somewhere. Better send it by mail, insured, advised the teacher sympathetically. As soon as I returned home, I immediately wrote an appeal to the regional court, and as the good teacher advised me, I sent it out with an insured packet by mail. 10 days had not gone by when the regional chairman, Tomilov, and the agent, Masляников, came to take away our possessions. I was informed. I ran home breathlessly. My husband was still in bed and could not get up. My oldest son was at work, the 2 younger ones in school. I informed my husband carefully that they had come to take away our things. I asked him not to get upset, but he became very excited. His already pale face became even paler. His hands and lips trembled. I tried to calm him as much as I knew how, fearing that he would suffer another heart attack. After a few minutes, burst in the executioners and a group of curious onlookers. Tomilov, stuttering, was reading the things described in the list, while Masляников was pulling them out and throwing them into the middle of the chata. There were not many of those things. At that moment, our younger son came home. He was wearing a coat. Take it off, jumped at him, and immediately tore the coat off his shoulders. The frightened child ran up to me and began to sob. Don't cry, Yozuk. Lithuanians must not cry. We must be firm and not show tears to these robbers. Remembering the phrase of Giedrė in the train car, I calmed my son. What are you agitating there? Bellowed Tomilov. Don't yell. The child's coat is not on the list. Like the vilest robbers, you are tearing clothes from our backs. You frightened the child, and I can't say anything to calm him. I was beginning to get excited. We are the representatives of the Soviet government. Do not raise your voice to us, shouted Tomilov. The collective farmers who had been in the chata were pulling back and stretching their necks and were watching to see what would happen next. The agent, looking at Tomilov and coming up to the bed, said sternly, Now get up. We have to take the bedding. My husband's blue lips trembled. He tried to get up, but weakened, let his hands drop back on the edge of the bed, and fell back again onto his pillow. Wait, what are you doing? You see that the man is near death. Leave it. I'll bring the bedding myself to the office right away. It won't disappear anywhere. Let us rearrange ourselves, I begged. Zutunya, my husband called me thus, don't lower yourself before these scoundrels. Why are you begging in front of these beasts, robbers? Where did he get so much strength? He rolled off the bed and shouted, Take everything and get the hell out of here. But his strength failed him, and gesturing with his hands, he fell towards the table. Tomilov jumped and punched him in the jaw with his fist. My husband staggered and in falling struck the edge of the metal bed and collapsed. My first reaction was to jump at Tomilov, punch him in his snout, one could not call it a face, and strangle him. But glancing at my unconscious husband, I saw that blood was trickling from his injured head. I dashed to help him. I lifted him up from the ground. Someone helped me put him on a straw mattress. Someone else ran and got some water from a neighbor. Our water had been spilled and our bucket seized. While I was tending to my husband, my lucid reason returned. If I had struck Tomilov, I would have been accused of resisting a government representative carrying out his duties. I was happy that I had not brought another misfortune on my family. What would they have done without me? Tomilov became frightened himself. I, having recovered my composure, turned to the collective farmers. Did you see? You will be witnesses. Can a man, calling himself a representative of a government, behave like this? No, you will not get away with it. My voice was firm and threatening. Whereas the curious onlookers, hearing that they would have to be witnesses, rushed outside, even jamming the door. The chata became empty. The agents were quickly tying up things into bed sheets and, having called some assistance, rolled everything on their backs and flocked out. Having calmed down my family, I went to the office. I was angry and upset. At the office, I only found my girl and Maslanikov. So tell me, on which paragraph of law do you base your behavior? I asked Maslanikov. He was obviously very worried about that incident. He saw that I was not the usual taiga inhabitant, oppressed by intimidation, and began to justify himself. I did nothing wrong. I don't know why that Tomilov went crazy. I'm not guilty of that. We were ordered to seize the things, but to hit someone was unnecessary. Fine. Do you have those instructions for the collection of payments, or was this only by instruction of the judges? I asked as calmly as I could. Judges are judges, but there's also a booklet. He extended a small booklet to me. I took the book and, leafing through it, found a paragraph about the collection of taxes. I read, for unpaid taxes, one cannot seize from a family 1. The last cow, 2. The last goat, or if there is no cow, 3. The last heifer, 4. Work tools by means of which the payer earns his basic living, 5. The clothes which he is wearing, 6. Everyday household items, dishes. I jumped from surprise and joy. Do you know the regulations for the demand of payment? I asked the agent. What I know, I was told, and I'm carrying out. So, listen and show your Tomilov. And I read him the paragraph in its entirety. Why do you call yourselves the representatives of the government and break the laws of the government and behave in such a beastly fashion? I reproached him. The poor boy, hearing this, was clearly frightened and kept on justifying himself that he had nothing to do with it, that it was Tomilov. I sat down at my work table, but my work was not going well, although just in case, I was clicking away on the abacus. After a while, having apparently had lunch, the commandant and Tomilov came into the office. Without hesitation, I went into his office and stated bluntly, Citizen Commandant, you are here, our Tsar and God. Then perhaps you might explain if a person can behave like this with citizens, calling himself the representative of the government. And I described for him the scene which had taken place in our chata. Tomilov was silent, his head was bent. Well, the commandant only said, you should not have driven him to it. Oh, really? Definitely, it should not have come to that. Do you know the order of tax collection? I read it barely an hour ago, and if you don't know, then take it from Maslanikov and read it. I stated firmly, because I felt well armed. They both glanced at each other and turned to me. Do you have anything more to say? I do. Please write me a permission to go tomorrow to Barbik, since I see that you cannot or do not want to do anything here. No, you will get no permission and you will go nowhere, the commandant shot back sternly. You are mistaken. You do not have to give me permission. I shall leave tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the morning, even without it. It was very insolent on my part, but knowing the law, I felt very confident. Upon hearing this, I saw that the commandant's jowls trembled. He was furious, and Tomilov was very nervous that he had encountered such resistance. The officials were used to doing as they pleased without regard for the law, and the people, not knowing the laws and their power, defended themselves with tears and supplications. And here was someone who used even Lenin's authority and knew the laws. They weren't quite at ease, since there were those who were higher than they. Citizen Commandant, I state once again that even if you do not give me written permission, I shall leave tomorrow at 7 o'clock to the regional center, and not waiting for an answer, I left the office. The morning of the following day, I prepared to set out to the regional center. Even though it was cold, about -20 degrees centigrade, I put on my black spring coat. Both winter ones had been eaten up. I took out from the bottom of my black ball gown a cut-off band so that it would be sellable. I shortened it about 30 centimeters. From that band, I made myself a small hat, similar to a Turkish turban. In other words, I dressed up. And with my elegant little coat and my black silk hat, I looked quite the lady. My family was so depressed, as if they were burying me, or as if I were going to my certain doom. I kissed them all. I hugged them. I asked them not to go anywhere, neither to work nor to school, to attend to and protect their father. He was lying on a bare mattress covered only with a robe, pale, tears streaming from his eyes. The children were crying also. My heart was heavy. It was overflowing with resentment for our offenders. I did not lack determination to find even a small iota of justice somewhere. I left. I could have gone straight to the Parbig Road, but at 7 o'clock in the morning, I went directly past the windows of the commandant. Light was shining through them. On purpose, I stopped by the house. I waited to see how the commandant would react, but no one hindered me. I stepped quite lively on the road toward the taiga. Little bits of ice crackled under my feet. It was 8 kilometers to the main road and another 18 kilometers on it. In all, 26 kilometers. For a normal traveler, the trek was considerable, but for me, famished in general and not having eaten anything today at all, with every step it became more difficult to measure the distance of the traveled road with my steps. I was terribly exhausted. The soles of my feet were burning. My knees did not want to bend. After 7 hours of walking, I reached Parbig. First, I went to the regional headquarters because I was traveling without a permit. The settlement was small. Everyone knows everyone else, and each militiaman, upon meeting a stranger, immediately arrests him. I stopped by the regional headquarters. The regional commandant, Silkov, turned out to be very humane. First of all, I asked for a permit for 2 days. I told him everything that had happened and how the local officials behaved. He listened very attentively. When I finished, he posed a few more questions. Infuriating, he said. I shall give you a permit for 5 days. You must rest, but I cannot help you in any way. I shall speak to Commandant Shabalin myself, and for everything else, go to the prosecutor and tell him everything without omitting anything. It appears to me that something is not right here. Such behavior by an official is not permitted. I was deeply moved by the humane and sympathetic reaction of the commandant. It meant that not everyone was like Shabalin and Tomilov. I walked over to the prosecutor's office. In the waiting room, there were already some people who had shed tears. When he stepped out of the office, the militiaman looked at the plaintiffs over quickly. He looked at me very attentively and seemed surprised because I stood out from the others. For which day and for what purpose have you been summoned? He asked. I came for a personal reason, without a summons, I answered. The militiaman glanced over the people waiting once more and disappeared behind the office door. Some began to question me. What kind of reason could I have to come to the prosecutor voluntarily? I did not have the opportunity to answer when the door to the office opened lightly and I was asked to step in. The prosecutor looked like a person of culture. That is how the Siberians would describe a neat, clean person. He was cleanly shaven. His uniform was well pressed. He asked me to sit down. What a sensation. I am listening to you. With his head, he nodded slightly in my direction. I recounted to him the worries and hurts of all of us. For they took everything, even our last food, clothing, dishes. How can we go on living? And they even struck my sick husband. I could hold out no longer and began to cry. Don't upset yourself. Don't upset yourself. The prosecutor even stood up. I somehow calmed myself and asked his pardon that I had not been able to hold back my tears, which he probably sees every day in profusion, that I was taking up his time unnecessarily. This is a dreadful story. The actions are unlawful from beginning to end. Those so-called government representatives had no right to impose taxes on you. The behavior of the judge also astounds me. It is a pity that you did not file an appeal with the regional court, but now it is too late. No court permits everything to be taken. I filed the appeal in time, and I recounted what obstacles Kolesnikova had created. Well, what kind of devilishness is this? Said the prosecutor as if to himself. Did you file the appeal through Judge Kolesnikova? He asked as if suspecting something. She can simply throw it out and say she did not receive it, he said, pacing through the office. I foresaw that also. That is why I sent the appeal by registered mail, and besides that, I wrote down the date very clearly on the appeal. Oh, you are a brave one. Tell me, what is your profession? Are you not perhaps a jurist? Asked the prosecutor, smiling. Good. From my side, I shall take some measures concerning those government officials. But you will have to wait for your things until you receive the decree of the regional court. Put everything you told me in writing, and I shall take the necessary steps. Goodbye. The prosecutor, Nostorov, nodded his head slightly. I thanked him sincerely and marched out to the town to visit some friends. It was already towards evening. Only now did I feel a terrible exhaustion and weakness. All my joints ached. I had shooting pains under my chest from hunger. I felt weak. Even my eyes were darkening. I stopped in at some very close friends' chata. They were a Jewish family from Kaunas with whom we had traveled in the same train car to Siberia. Oh, what a guest! It is the elder from our car. Finkelsteiners turned slightly to a seated person unknown to me. Sit down. Tell us how you are living. Where? He flooded me with questions. The stranger left. The Finkelsteiners family surrounded me. Perhaps you will have a cup of tea, asked Finkelsteiniene. With pleasure, because I did not have anything to eat today, I answered, my mouth watering in thinking about some sort of food. She immediately brought a cup of hot water and excused herself that she had no sugar nor any tea leaves. Drink it, at least you will warm up. Although I knew that none of the deportees had any real tea, I was still a little disappointed, while slowly sipping the hot water. Mami, gita biseli brot, said her 7-year-old son, cuddling up to her. His mother said something to him in a low voice, but he, as I listened, promised not to eat any bread, but asked to give me his ration. Very well, said Finkelsteiniene, holding her youngest son close to her. You see what kind of boy my Kiso is? He says he himself will not eat any bread today, but to give it to you. I could not eat a child's bread. Oh, Kisanka, what a wonderful, good-hearted child you are. But I was becoming faint. I had such a desire to put something edible in my mouth, and bread was only a dream that we had not seen for a long time. The hostess brought a small piece of bread and a couple of spoons full of a thin carrot mash. I would have swallowed this ration in 2 bites, but I controlled myself and chewed the bread in small bites, washing it down with tea, of which the generous lady gave me a second cup. Having satisfied my hunger, more precisely having stimulated an even greater desire to eat, I thanked my host as best I knew how, especially the good boy who had so heroically and nobly given me his bread. After all, they also only received a ration and did not have sufficient bread. Jews had it easier. They had brought several thousand rubles, quite a few things, even food for at least the beginning. Seemingly they managed somehow to please the officials, since they had been settled in the center of the region, where others were forbidden even to enter without a permit. There were 2 families. They immediately bought a small house, opened a shop to repair watches, so that they would not have to do strenuous work at a plant. Of course, apart from the deportees, very few people had any watches, and the watches of the deportees immediately moved into the pockets of the local officials. Whether they repaired any watches or not, it was still considered that they were factory workers and received a ration of 500 grams of bread. Their dependents, who were in school, received 300 grams each. Clearly, only the above-mentioned 2 Jewish families could work out such a deal, and it is understood it cost them a lot. After I ate, I told them how the government officials had treated us and how the prosecutor and the regional commandant had reacted. The prosecutor said to write an appeal to him, but where will I get some paper? If I were at home, I would take a sheet from the children's notebook and I would write it. The little Kisa, having listened attentively to my story, jumped out of his seat right away, tore out a sheet from his notebook and held it out to me. Take it, write. I'll even give you a pen. His mother jumped up and cried out nervously, What tutse? Started to scold the child, grabbed the notebook from his hands and said in Lithuanian, What did you do? The teacher will throw you out of school. You know that the teacher strictly forbade you to tear out even one sheet from your notebook. Oi, these children. And the eyes of the belligerent Kisa were blazing with an emotional voice. He cried out through his tears, All right, let her throw me out. The lady must write. How can she not write, since they pulled the coat off your Zuka's back in the winter? How will he be able to go to school without a coat? No, I won't go either, ended Kisa decidedly. He and Yozukas had become great friends during those 6 weeks on the train and on the barge. They were of the same age. And now, even though they lived far away from each other and were going to different schools, but the news that bad people had treated his friends so cruelly upset him very much, and the noble Kisa was determined even to suffer himself, but all his means to help punish the wrongdoers. I thanked the child with all my heart. I apologized to the mother that such an unpleasantness had occurred and sat down to write. I wrote briefly, concisely, so that my appeal would fit on one sheet. The following morning, as soon as it was 9 o'clock, I delivered the appeal to the prosecutor and set off for home. The road was long and unpleasant. My forces were depleted. The cold Siberian wind was seeping through my light summer coat, was making my joints stiff, but I was very content with my actions. Finally, I reached Bolotovka. Only 8 kilometers were left to go, but the fatigue of 2 days, especially without eating, made me ready to collapse. I stopped at the teacher's chata, who had gotten my girdle, a camisole, and some jewelry in exchange for a broken, practically useless spade, who had made a copy of the decree of the court. I reminded her who I was. I told her from where I was coming. She received me very pleasantly. Right away, she asked me to sit down. She pulled out of the oven a pan with potatoes, poured me a cup of milk, and to my great surprise, cut a rather large piece of bread and kept on urging, Eat your fill. I thanked her warmly. I ate the potatoes and drank the milk, but I asked her to allow me to take the bread with me to bring it back to my hungry children and my sick husband. Towards evening, I was already home, where my loved ones were waiting for me anxiously and longingly. First, I distributed the presents, a small mouthful of bread each, but what could a small slice of bread mean to 4 hungry mouths? And still the joy of everyone was great, that I was home again and with them. I told them in detail about my trip, how the regional commandant and the prosecutor had reacted. I told them that the Jewish family which had settled in the regional court had advised me to present a request to be released from the collective farm and to request the commandant to allow us to leave Komarovka. The following morning, when I went back to the office, I immediately recounted how the regional commandant Shilkov and the prosecutor Nastorov had reacted to our brutalization. I said that the things which had been seized will have to be returned. And how will they return them? Because the same day that you left for Parbik, everything was sold, said my superior Tanya. Just don't think, Yusefa Stanislavovna, that any of us collective farmers bought anything. True, Delbushin took 1 pillow, 1 comforter, and the potatoes, and the other things were bought up by the Vostok collective farmers. And who got the dishes? I saw that our enameled bucket filled with water was standing in the office waiting room. We kept it in the office. We didn't give it to anyone. If we are told to return it, then you will bring 30 rubles. Then that's what we wrote in the inventory list, and that's how much we paid. You will be able to take it back. The more experienced farmers only laughed. Just wait, they'll return it. You'll rip the sheep out of the jaws of the wolf. Don't even think of it. Until the verdict comes from Tomsk, you know yourself that it is brought 300 kilometers by oxen. Until the ox plods back and forth 300 kilometers, it'll be spring. At least for 2 months, the road will not be passable. Just count. During that time, no clothes or rags will be left. That's how the Altai people consoled me having experienced the same type of situation on their own hide 10 years ago. Apparently, the Commandant Shabalin and the agents had foreseen this, and that is why they concocted this at the end of March. Notes. Mami, gib a bissli Brot. Mami, give her a little bread. Yiddish for the German, Mutti, gib ihr ein bisschen Brot. Kiso, kisa, kisanka, all the same name, the latter being a diminutive. Oi, was tut er? Again, Yiddish, oh, what is he doing, what is he doing? The German would be, och, was tut er, was tut er?